Hi, and welcome back to the Shane Plays Out of the Abyss Notes series. This one will probably be a little bit shorter than the other ones, uh, mainly because A, I don't have a lot of time today, and B, because what we did on the most recent session probably doesn't take a whole lot of time to go through. I'm basically going to make some notes and share with you on how I think in room 12 or Area 12, the cultist hideout in the Whorlstone tunnels under Gracklstugh can be handled and Out of the Abyss if things don't go according to plan. So there's some pretty good notes on what happens if the characters make it in and don't, fall in the pit or set off the Shrieker. That's the mushroom that yells basically when creatures come within a certain distance. And it kind of gives some good notes how to handle it from there, but it doesn't really tell you how to handle it if they alert the Shrieker, and then everything kind of you got to kind of wing it from there. So I'll just kind of make a few notes on what I did. Other notes, they had just finished a long rest in, I think it was it was the cultist pens where the cave bears are, and that was area 10. So they didn't go to area 11, which I think is where the closets hang out. They didn't go into those narrow tunnels. They've been kind of avoiding the narrow tunnels recently. Um, Definitely, they've done most of what the important stuff in the Whorlstone tunnels, other than maybe encountering Droki, their previous NPC party member who's went nuts and escaped. So they may, depending on what they choose, encounter him on the way out. But other than that, they're pretty much done. I'd like to get them back to the Dark Lake District in the inn and do an encounter because their pursuit level is definitely 6. It's still 6. Ilvara and her crew definitely know where they're at. That video, ladies and gentlemen, starring my wife's arm. Stick your arm back out there. There, go do it. Do it. Do it. No, let's see your arm. Just there it is, starring my wife's arm, and it's starring role. So my lovely wife. Sorry, babe. There's your elbow right there. I see it. There's your elbow. Yeah. So anyway, and Alvara's caught up to him. I'd like to use that as the sort of catalyst to get them out of Gracklstugh. They've spent plenty of time there, uh, especially in the Whorlstone tunnels, and I'd like to get them either to Neverlight Grove or Sloopadoop. Hopefully they'll go to Sloopadoop or whatever, the Kuatoa town, because there's that massively cool encounter with Demogorgon there. Speaking of Demogorgon, Area 12, you basically interrupt the cultists that are performing a ritual basically to Demogorgon, and they're trying to curse the stone giants. So um, they finished the fight, but they haven't had time to search the area yet. So there's clues there about what's going on, and if they take this stuff back to the stone giants, then I'm going to give them. There's an item that the stone speaker, Hakram, I guess how you say his name, can give that to them, and then that can come into play later in the adventure. So hopefully they'll do that. Um, Trying to think if there's anything else. I've still got to work in. I've got that family of 4 that went on vacation for a couple of months. They've come back. I got to figure out a way to work them in because we're running like 8 people right now, so that'll be like 12 if when they come back in. I just got to figure out what to do. That's we've got 2.5 hour sessions. That many players is a lot, so we've got to figure out what to do. On that, but I'll make it work since we play on behalf of a store. But I've been talking to the owner and some employees. There's like, we really need to get another DM up here, because I hate to turn people away, but you do hit a point where you got to turn people away or do a waiting list or something. So, so what I did was, I don't know how well this will show up, but when they come in from the west, now they can come in from this area if they're going through a narrow tunnel, which they didn't. So they came in from this area, with their little Darrow that they captured a couple of sessions ago leading them. And he's still mouthing off and, kind of leading them, but being somewhat tricksy when he can. Um, and he knows about the pit trap and he knows about the Shrieker, But they asked him how many people are in there, and he's like, I don't know, a bunch. But they didn't ask him, or is there anything else? So he didn't tell them about the Shrieker or the pit trap. So we had a couple of people sneak in and stealth in. Um, or we had one guy stealth in, and he saw the pit trap and avoided it and kept going. But his nature and perception, all that, didn't detect the Shrieker, so it started yelling. And everybody else said, okay, well, we hear that yelling, so we run in. And because of that, and I'll just show this again real quick. So you got the pit trap here, you got the Shrieker here, you got the death dog uh, kennel thing right there, and then up here is sort of a natural raised platform, and that's where they're kind of doing this ritual with some glowing stuff on the floor and all that. So, and then there's a small tunnel exit out here. So, one of the monks, after much discussion, they decided that one of the monks would go in and stealth in. He stealthed in pretty well. He noticed the pit trap. He said, hey, something, he could tell something funny's going on there, so he avoided that. But he set off the Shrieker, so everybody else ran in, and the two people that were in the lead running in by the marching order, another monk noticed the pit trap and was able to avoid it, but Anna, the young impetuous uh, wizard elf, she didn't and just went right in and collapsed in, took the damage from falling, and hit the green slime. And it says by the book, you automatically, fail your save with the green slime, so she's got green slime on her. So they're, trying to kill the Shrieker, trying to get Anna out. That took a couple of rounds to do that. And then one of my players was like, and his character ran up and was trying to research the Shrieker to find out how was it making this noise, because he wanted to take that, whatever that was, out of the Shrieker and take it with him, however it made that noise. And there were a couple of people, looking at that, trying to figure it out, and there are people taking care of Anna. She took a lot of damage. I think she had about 6 hit points left by the time they got her out, and they used lesser restoration on the green slime to kill it. And then the death dog came barreling in. See, here's where everything gets kind of weird with Area 12. There's several Darrow. There's Narok. I think it's either Naraka or Narok. Hold on a second. Yeah, his name's Narek or Narok, and he's a Darrow savant magic user leading the ritual and all that. He's the head of the cult, basically. And you have all these Darrow, and then you have an Etten, those two-headed crazy giants. And it gives you very specific instructions what happens if the players just kind of walk in and interrupt the ritual where everybody can see everybody, but they don't really tell you what to do if the Shrieker goes off. So you just got to kind of wing it. So I just determined that the death dog kind of rolled in. They're fighting the death dog, and then they still kind of hear some chanting and, keep up the ritual, and then they hear the Etten's name is Grulamunga. And anybody who can understand Dwarven hears a voice say, Grulamunga, go see what's going on. And so there's stuff like this going on. Anyway, they fought the death dog. And then, a couple of people kept advancing, and they saw the other Darrow that was the handler for the death dog. And then they kind of looked over and started seeing, I don't know, I got something flying around here, the cultist up on the platform. They haven't seen the Etten yet. Anyway, so then they get into combat. They finally do interrupt the ritual. The way they interrupted the ritual, because I played it differently than the book said. The book says the ritual interrupts pretty quickly, but since things weren't going according to the book, I let the ritual go a little further so they could get the point there was a ritual going on and hear the chanting and all that, because I wanted to have that for the atmosphere. Well, one of the monks evidently can cast silence, and so he cast silence on the ritual, which was, I was like, oh yeah, that's really going to tick them off. That definitely interrupted the ritual. So long story short, I thought that was kind of a nice move. I gave him inspiration for that. Long story short, they got into a combat. The Etten made it in. One of the monks went down. No, the dwarf, Eldith. I had a guy who shows up every now and then, not every session, and he played Eldith, the NPC, last night. Eldith got knocked out a couple of times. Anna, the magic user, was taking damage because she was actually dealing out some damage. So of course they were like, take out the magic user. It was a good fun combat. Trying to think if there was anything really noteworthy, um, other than the Etten was jacking people up. Um, at one point, somebody removed themselves from the threat range of the Etten so they could do a range spell. That was the magic user Anna, the elf, and got just waylaid by an attack of opportunity. Didn't die, but just got smacked around. And we have this thing in my sessions. I don't think I've mentioned it in any of this yet before, but we call it the Dread Beagle of Doom. And the Dread Beagle of Doom is this little miniature that one of my players has. And when things look grim, like somebody might die, a lot of times the Dread Beagle of Doom will come out and begin howling in the distance. And the Dread Beagle of Doom made an appearance last night because it was looking like there was a very good chance somebody might die with it because you had a magic user, you had like 5 or 6 Darrow, and you had that Etten. And, there's a lot of damage being thrown around. But the thing with the Dread Beagle of Doom is no matter if you're underground, above ground, if it's nighttime, daytime, no matter what kind of if you're in the forest or the desert or whatever, when the Dread Beagle of Doom appears, it's always off in the distance on kind of a rolling hill, like in the Fens. And there's like mist and moonlight, and it's a full moon. And he goes, ooh. So the Dread Beagle of Doom was howling last night. But the Dread Beagle was disappointed. There was no death. The greatest toll that the Dread Beagle has taken, I think, was 4 character deaths in one night when a party attacked a dragon. So and with very poor tactics. But anyway, so that was pretty much what happened last night. I'm trying to get them. They finally defeated Narak. And I did a dumb one on my. Sometimes the GM does stupid stuff, and I had Narak or however you want to say his name, cast Charm Person on 2 of the NPCs, bumped it up to a 2nd level spell, and then you can cast on a 2nd person within 30 feet. And I had them do that on the elf, Anna, which they're immune to Charm, but it's still the 2nd person within 30 feet, was in range and not an elf. But, and they both and they both made their saves, but then they're like, wait a minute, I was like, okay, it was Charm Person. They were like, oh, this is an elf. I'm like, yep, you're right. So, sometimes the DM goofs up. Had some, kind of comic relief with the Darrow that they captured a couple of sessions ago. The blind rogue was kind of holding on to him, and the commentary the Darrow was giving, because he was rooting for the Etten and Narak and the Darrow and the Death Dog was rooting for all that, and so that was kind of fun for comic relief. And he's still alive, strangely enough. So the battle ended. We went like an hour over last night. I never do that. But the owner came in and was like, starting to break stuff down, and he was like, how much longer y'all got? And I was like, whoa, we were like an hour over. So, I came home to my wife like, oh, I'm sorry, baby. And, it was a big rush trying to get out of there. But yeah, we went like an hour over, had a good fun combat. It's been combat heavy for several sessions. So I'm looking forward to getting out of the Whorlstone tunnels, go do some role play with, because they've got to take the egg back to either the dragon or the not the cultists, the keepers of the flame, the clerics that are the handlers of the dragon, and they'll probably go talk to the stone giants, and they need to go back to the inn where their other NPCs are at, and they need to have the encounter with Elvira. So I'm hoping to all do that next session and then get them out of Gracklstugh. That's what I'm hoping to do. So fun session. This adventure remains fun. I wish we could go like 3 or 4 hours each session and go further and further. I've always got a guy, he's like 12 or 13, and he always ends up having to leave, about 30 minutes before everybody else. So like last night, again, he's like, oh, I got to go. And I said, well, go ahead. And it wasn't even his initiative. I said, just take an action. So he did something to the Etten. I can't remember. I think it was a Ray of Enfeeblement, and he poisoned him. So he gave him damage and disadvantage on attacks for the next round. So I always try to let, since he has to leave early, I was like, go ahead and take an action. So anyway, it's fun. Time management, when you're just 2.5 hours at a clip, you really got to be careful with time management. But I'm ready to get them out of the Whorlstone tunnels. I have a feeling they're ready to get out of the Whorlstone tunnels. I want to finish up Gracklstugh and get them on. So that was this session. Thanks so much for listening and watching and all that good stuff. Next session, like I said, we'll pick up right after the fight. I'll let them kind of search. I'll probably kind of handhold them through the search. Give them, hey, here's what you find, and just kind of give them everything to get them out of the Whorlstone tunnels. And last thing, I told them you guys have probably earned enough experience to level up, which is true. I'm probably going to level them up the next long rest they take. I'm going to allow them to level up. So pretty sure they've got enough experience since the last time. And we're done with milestone leveling. I'm doing it purely by experience now. But other than that, that's it. Thanks so much for watching the Shane Plays Out of the Abyss Notes series. Please keep watching as it keeps going. And if you're into role-playing games beyond just D&D, I just put up a very exhaustive, comprehensive how-to tutorial, almost really a virtual seminar on how to create a GURPS character, the generic universal role-playing system. So check that out. Please leave this video a thumbs up and a comment on YouTube. That helps me tremendously. And subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Thanks so much for watching.